Cari fratelli e sorelle, buona Pasqua. Maestro delle cerimonie, di leggere il messaggio.
Ghana for Mumienka Uwubeya. Yes, Uwubeya. What the answer met me in common so no Mr. says no first time who hear me videos and no subscribe to my YouTube channel na day. Amame. We are no like, no share, no say comment. Na bell be bebanado won say me and so amame. Say be ya anytime be me di new videos betum be ano. Won sabit my day. Akan be. Ghana for enne ya antia sempa na mpanifo say sa ade ache ese ya antia semfo fra na ye day. Ye chiri. Pope Francis and waka enchinagu abra eduane yede esigwa so na are ho papa wo hwe enra videos na me de show bi enra de ene nne anopa de say Roman for na say a Christopher enye yie pa enye yie ketwa na mo de mo yenko ni nkoti de wi BBC your friends Al Jazeera see here a report to news no.
All right, we're going to bring you some breaking news just coming into us now here in Al Jazeera that Pope Francis, the first Latin American leader of the Roman Catholic Church, has died. Just to repeat that, an announcement being made by the Vatican in a video statement saying Pope Francis, who we know has been suffering health challenges, has now passed away. It ends an often turbulent reign that has reigned in the Vatican as he sought to overhaul the institution. Now, we do know that the Pope had appeared briefly to give traditional Easter blessing on Sunday. He appeared from the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica in front of crowds there, and that appearance followed a brief meeting with the US Vice President J.D. Vance. And those appearances were his highest profile appearances since he was discharged from hospital. Doctors were telling him he needed to rest, but he did make those brief appearances, raising perhaps hopes that he was on the mend. But now the news coming from the Vatican, the leader of the Roman Catholic Church, Pope Francis, has died at 88 years old. Well, he was born in Argentina, the first Latin American to take the post, as I mentioned. Pope Francis, broadly popular, appealing to both conservatives with his orthodox views on religious doctrine and reformers with his liberal views on social justice. Sonia Gallego takes a look back at his papacy.
As soon as he stepped out onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, Pope Francis made history. He was the first Latin American pope, the first non-European for more than 1,000 years, and his simple words and humble manner immediately won over the crowds.
Buonasera.
As Cardinal Bergoglio, the Archbishop of Buenos Aires, he had witnessed firsthand the hardships faced by the poor, and from the start, the new pope showed the world the humble side of the papacy. He chose Francis as his papal name, inspired by St. Francis of Assisi, the son of a wealthy merchant who chose instead to live a life of poverty. Pope Francis led by example and made clear that he expected the same of his clergy.
Hombres que amen la pobreza.
Men of poverty, exterior poverty, simplicity and austerity of life. Men who do not think and behave like princes. Men who are not ambitious.
I think he was a pope of the developing world. He was a pope of the poor. He was a pope who spoke to and from the margins of society, and who was very conscious of the gaps which exist in society and the way that people erect barriers between themselves. And I think he, more than any pope I can think of in modern times, was able to speak over those barriers. I just have an image of him hugging people. You know.
His warmth and common touch were particularly obvious during his weekly audiences, when thousands gathered to meet him in St. Peter's Square. But, true to his word, he took his message out of the Vatican and to the margins of the church. He sought out the weakest and didn't shy away from controversy. From the favelas in Brazil to the immigrants in Lampedusa.
The exclusion of migrants is scandalous. Indeed, it's criminal.
And the separation wall in the occupied West Bank. His popularity extended well beyond the Catholic world. He graced the cover of Rolling Stone and was chosen as Time magazine's Man of the Year. But popularity alone wouldn't be enough to heal a church reeling from allegations of internal corruption and the child sex abuse scandal. The Vatican has been castigated twice by the United Nations for failing to adequately punish abusive priests. The Pope held private meetings with abuse victims and in the second year of his papacy set up a committee to oversee how parishes dealt with cases of abuse. Members of the committee included a cardinal as well as an abuse victim, but some survivors groups were disappointed, describing it as toothless. Francis' handling of internal corruption within the Vatican was perhaps more decisive. The so-called Vatican Bank had been a hotbed of scandal for years. Under Pope Francis, hundreds of accounts were closed, some were investigated, and strict anti-money laundering regulations were implemented. Francis was the only pope in living memory to have had the company of a Pope Emeritus, and although they shared a conservative view when it came to religious doctrine, Pope Francis's language and style were more inclusive to those who might have previously felt shut out by the church, such as divorcees and homosexuals. The Catholic world and beyond will mourn the passing of Pope Francis and reflect on the reforms he might have made if only he'd had more time.
Yeah, Ghana for radio, Ghana for name, the voice of Nsawam. Yes, channel name. I'm a Roman for Yako. Monka frapa, Umanya ye, a drew also as a more ye, more freya, a bed. Roman for more Ghana had any Yasinano, Yamama Yako, Monka frapa, say Mopenina, Ephraim. Now, when ye busa question, because say, Latin American for any move, it will be from Huabe, Abidia, Ade, Abe Pupa Mnaide, aye. It is say, Roman for the was here or your. Na afi sumu muno umbe stress no metwas na be end na Africa so umayi obi from Africa no abedi Roman for ayde enim enti no ye de ye hwe anim say Roman for ebeyi saad na ayde afri honom enti ye hwe se Vatican for no umbe yi obi oye bibini first time oye bibini nyese oye bibini keko oye bibini o free Africa na obe lead Roman sum na nim se be ya be me sumu mu na ekoso owi ase no ye bit eto bit ma ayde etwa eti Ghana for we dey can be bitchere Roman for our comment section hono ne yenchechire mo re because mpenifo say e kan 19 na aka eto na say ka to na aka 19 enti no can be bitchere wo mu chichire mo re na Bible say ene de onsu no nyere ensu ene de wo sere nyere ensere enti can be bitchere mo comment section hono me da ase